Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Cachaça. So Cachaça is a really interesting spirit. It kind of falls into the rum world, but it's not a rum. So similar to rum, Cachaça has evolved from Aguardiente de Caña, but it stayed closer to what Aguardiente is instead of rum that just really took off into something completely different. So in my last video, how I mentioned Spain, the British, and the French, as well as other European countries were coming to the Caribbean and starting to take over islands. The Portuguese were one of those European countries, and they claimed the land of what was Brazil. And similar to these other European countries, they were planting sugarcane across the land. But what Portugal had in common with Spain is that they were also distilling alcohol from sugarcane juice, Aguardiente de Caña, which they were doing in the Madeira Islands off the coast of Africa. And similar to Spain, they brought these techniques with them to the Caribbean and started production in Brazil in 1532. So here are the differences between cachaça and aguardiente de caña. So cachaça can only be made from fermented sugarcane juice, while aguardiente can be made from fermented sugarcane juice, but also molasses or syrup. Cachaça can add sugar, but aguardiente de caña cannot. And cachaça typically just has an alcohol content in between 38 to 40%, whereas aguardiente can be as high as 54%. So in Canada, we do have access to quite a bit of different types of cachaça. My favorite workhorse is this one here, Le Blanc. So this is a brand that's readily available across the world. It's pretty easy to find. This one, it's very nice and floral. It's got a really good sugarcane flavor. It's pretty sweet. So there is another brand of cachaça that I love to work with, but it's not available in Canada, but you can get it in the US. And it has Novo Fogo. So right off the bat, what I love about this brand is the aesthetic of the bottles. I love the design. I love how they use a burlap sack on the neck. This one, in terms of flavor, it's very nice. It's still got that grapey kind of sweet cachaça flavor. It's not as sweet as the Le Blanc. It's a lot more subtle and softer. What I also love about Novo Fogo is that they have different types of cachaça where they age it in certain types of barrels. And one of those is a Novo Fogo barrel aged. So this one here is aged for 2 years in oak barrels. I believe it's bourbon oak, but the flavor in this one is very different. It's similar to rye, where it's got those barrel notes to it. It's got some spice to it. It's very different from these two silver cachaças, where it doesn't have that really sweet grassy flavor from the sugarcane. Another variation that they have here is their Tanagir. And what I love about this one is that they're aging it in a wood that's very unique to Brazil, and that's zebra wood. So this one here, they actually had zebra wood previously on their property that they were able to repurpose and make a barrel out of it and age the cachaça. I really like this brand and their story. They're also carbon negative through their reforestation project. I'll leave a link down in the description below if you want to read more about Novo Fogo. Okay, so that's it for cachaça. Now let's get into making some cocktails. So the first cocktail that we're going to do, of course, is the Caipirinha. So this is the most popular cocktail in Brazil. So this cocktail was invented in 1918 during the Spanish flu pandemic. So even though this cocktail isn't that old in the world of cocktails, it does have some roots in how it was created. So some cocktails are so old that they even predate the word cocktail. And like most of these early cocktails, they weren't made to be enjoyed for consumption. They were made for cures and to fight illnesses and diseases. So this one we're going to build right into the glass. So we're going to start off by cutting a lime. But before we do that, I'm going to do something a little bit more fancy here for you guys. I could have done this last week in the Cachaça cocktail, but that video was already running a little bit too long. But in this video, we have a little bit more time. So first, we're going to take this peeler. Maybe move the glass here. We're going to take this peeler and score the lime, making a design. Okay, and once you finish going around the lime, now you can go in quarters on the side. There you go, and now here is your beautifully scratched up lime. Okay, so we're going to take our knife and cut this. I'm going to cut it opposite of the designs. Then next we're going to do a teaspoon of just some white sugar. And we're going to give this some light muddle just to release the juice from the limes. Next we're going to do 2 ounces of a silver cachaça. You can use the LeBlanc, but I'm going to use Nuevo Fogo because I have access to it. Next we're going to add in some ice. Then we're just going to lift up those lime wedges. Give it a bit of a stir. And there you have the Caipirinha. Cheers. That's really nice, light and refreshing. So if you don't like sweeter drinks, that's why I recommend using the Nuevo Fogo. The LeBlanc can be a little bit more sweeter because it's got a little bit more of that sweet sugar cane, a lot more sweet, juicy type of flavor. With the Nuevo Fogo, it's a lot more drier, not as sweet. So the next cocktail that we're going to do is the La Chancleta. This cocktail was invented at Cafe La Trova in Miami. I'm not sure when this cocktail was invented, but I think in the last 10 years or so. So in Canada, we don't have access to aged cachaça, so I'm going to help you find a substitution for this bottle. I'm going to give this one a bit of a sip here. I'm getting some, now that it's out of the bottle, I'm getting these kind of rum, funky banana pasta notes. Closer to, I'd say closer to the Appleton Estate signature. That's really nice. That's way different from the other two. You really don't get that much of that sugar cane. It's kind of like a hybrid between a rye and a pastel Jamaican rum. You really don't get any of that sweet sugar cane type of flavor. So this is very different. Okay, so to replace the barrel-aged cachaça, I'm going to go with Jamaican rum, rye, and a silver cachaça. So the recipe calls for 1.5 ounces of an aged cachaça. So I'm going to do 1 ounce of rye, quarter of an ounce of Jamaican rum, and just 1/4 of an ounce of a silver cachaça. Next is 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. And next is a honey ginger syrup. So for this one, I made a 2-to-1 simple syrup. So 2 parts honey to 1 part water. And then I added about 1/2 ounce of ginger and I let it steep in the honey syrup for about an hour, and then I straight it into a bottle. And this is the result. So we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of the honey ginger syrup. Then we're going to add in some ice. And shake for about 12 to 15 seconds. And then we are going to double strain into an old-fashioned glass over a large ice cube. And there you have the La Chancleta. You're supposed to garnish with a slice of lime, but I ran out of limes, but cheers anyway. That's really nice. Really nice and complex. You really get the barrel notes. This is exactly one of my inspirations to starting this channel, because getting into cocktails can be quite complicated. So barrel-aged cachaça isn't called for a lot of cocktails, so if you don't want to go out and get it, you don't have to. But rye, Appleton, Jamaican rum, and the LeBlanc cachaça, they're pretty accessible around the world, so it's a really good substitute. So if you don't want to do this cocktail with barrel-aged cachaça, then you can use my substitution, and I'll leave the description down below. So the next cocktail that we're going to do is the Batida de Coco. So I'm not exactly sure who invented this cocktail, but it was invented in the 1940s in Brazil. So batidas are a style of cocktail made with cachaça and any kind of fruit, in this case coconut, and we're using cream of coconut. So this is Coco Lopez. This is the most popular brand on the market. It's really hard to find in Canada. You can find it on Amazon, but it's ridiculously expensive. If you're here in Toronto, you can find it in Kensington Market. There's two Latin markets that I go to. One is Parola Supermarket and the other one is Vita Market. It's only about $4, $5, $6. Once Coco Lopez or any kind of cream of coconut is opened, it doesn't last very long in the fridge. So what I do is I transfer it into a container and put it in the freezer, and it lasts a really long time. So we're going to do 1.5 ounces of a silver cachaça. An 1.5 ounces of cream of coconut. I'm just going to eyeball it here. And 1/2 ounce of lime juice. Then we're going to add in some pebble ice. I'll leave a link down in the description for where I get the molds for these little pebble ice. And shake for about 12 to 15 seconds. Then we're going to fill an old-fashioned glass with some pebble ice. Then we're going to open pour. Top off with some more pebble ice. Whenever I'm topping my cocktails off with pebble ice or crushed ice, I like to do more of like a triangle snow cone, just for more aesthetics. You don't have to. And garnish with freshly grated nutmeg. And there you have the Batida de Coco. Okay, cheers. That's really nice and refreshing. Another good reason to use the Novo Fogo, because you really don't get that sweet, kind of grassy cachaça. It's really nice and subtle. And it's nice as we're getting closer to the holidays with the nutmeg on top. It kind of gets that holiday kind of winter spice as well. It's a really good drink. Okay, so there you have 3 easy cachaça cocktails with minimal ingredients. Don't be afraid to make this one here, even if you don't have access to barrel-aged cachaça. I showed you an easy substitute, so you can make it on your own as well with different bottles. I hope this video was as much fun for you as it was for me. Hit that like and subscribe button, follow me on Instagram for more recipes, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!